class today, which we don't have a professional kitchen or even a halfway, so we're going to be doing a lot of talking about the recipes, and then we're going to be doing some assembly, and then we are going to make one recipe, which I'm starting over here, so we're going to be moving around and dancing a little bit with this. We do have cooking classes at LifePoint twice a month. They're usually the second and the fourth Thursday of the month. They're $10. You come and you get a lot of samples. This next week, the 7th, we have a modifying desserts and kind of modifying those kind of naughty little desserts that we might have that they're still going to have calories, but healthier ways to do it, or even looking at what would be some portion sizes of those desserts so that we don't necessarily go overboard. And then in 2 weeks, we'll have another class for heart health, and then in March, we're going to have a chicken and a beef one, which is going to be fun because those are the two most common types of meat that people consume, and we need to change things up a little bit. How many of you guys are participating in the Bank 10-Day Real Foods Challenge? How you guys doing on it? What's the struggle?
Lunch.
And what do you mean, lunch?
Well, because I just ate chocolate.
So it's tempting not to go through the drive-thru or to get a lean cuisine or something like that. And that's the one thing with real foods is it takes planning and preparation to actually cook foods. And you know, we live in a society now where everything is convenient and quick. And so even those things that you could make yourself, you could do yourself, and they're titled natural on the food label, those are processed foods. And I mean, you know, we kind of get tricked up with this marketing and everything where it says natural salsa or natural cereal or natural salad dressing or natural this. And then you read through the ingredient list, and yeah, it's natural, but there's still, 14 different things. Or like Zamzam gum. It's used as a thickening agent. It's a plant-based item, and that's natural. But how natural really is that of what we're going to be using on an everyday basis for? One thing, too, that's at our disadvantage is not very many of us have gardens, so we don't can. And then for those winter months, we're stuck with having to go to the grocery store. So going to a farmer's market and stuff isn't necessarily in our cards at this time of year. I just got back from San Francisco last week, and there are farmer's markets everywhere. I thought this is where I would love to live. All these fruits and vegetables available all year round. Well, we're going to be making not necessarily making, but talking about 4 different recipes today. And I'll tell you as we go the reason why I chose those 4 recipes. I've given you the recipes. We'll have 4 different recipes. The first one, the fruit and nut bars, we're going to actually go over that last. You have to save dessert for last, right? So if you want to turn to the second page, these chicken lettuce wraps. And this is one of those things that, you know, we're wanting Asian or wanting kind of a spicy concoction. We're wanting to go through the drive-thru and get something or doing something that's quick for work. This would be a recipe that you could make the day before. It literally takes about 15, 20 minutes max from start to finish. And I've already done a little bit of prep. I'm one of those germaphobes, and so I hate to bring uncooked meat out of a place where I didn't know where the use sanitizers or kitchen sinks and soap and stuff. So I've already done the first step over here. And then what I did is you can see I took ground chicken breast, onion, salt, pepper, garlic, and mixed it all together and cooked it. Now, MBA, which is the Smart Chicken, they actually have a ground chicken. And their chicken is an all-natural chicken. If you wanted to go one step further, you could actually buy their organic chicken and grind it yourself. But they do make a great, already pre-ground chicken. Also, the Jenny O ground turkey is also all natural. And if you turn it over and the ingredient list is all it is turkey. There's no turkey parts, no turkey byproducts, no turkey, any other word after that turkey. So it's just literally turkey. And that's what you want with meat. Anything that says parts or pieces or separated, then you're going to know that you're going to be getting a lot of those leftovers, and it's probably not the clean meat that you're going to be eating. One thing with turkey and with chicken is it's going to have the dark meat, the white meat, and the skin that's all ground into that. So it's very difficult to find just a ground turkey breast or just a ground chicken breast. Even if you get the 99% lean ground turkey, there's still going to be the dark meat in it and potentially a little bit of skin. There has to be some fat in there to give a little bit of moisture. If you wanted to, if you're a vegetarian, you could easily substitute like a Boca Burger or Morningstar crumbles, or even if you wanted to do a little bit more whole food, you could do the TVP, which is textured vegetable protein. If you go to Open Harvest, they have it in big bins. You could get some, and basically you just soak it in water till it rehydrates, and then you would use it just like any other ground beef, ground chicken in your recipe. Better turn my stove down here. Whoop! I want some good turkey meat on the ground. My skillet's a little bit too slick for me. Does anybody want to help? Anybody want to measure and stir?
Yeah.
You will? Okay, come on. I'm going to have you help us here. There's the ocean.
Put my glasses on.
So we're going to have you make the sauce for this dish. If you want to wash your hands and everything in there. And of course, in usual fashion, you know, you forget things. I forgot bowls to mix it in, so we're just going to mix in this little styrofoam bowl. And you notice in this recipe it says that you're supposed to microwave it, and the reason is to melt the peanut butter, the honey, and kind of combine everything together, but you don't have to. You can take one step out. If you wanted to kind of make a well or like a little hole in your skillet, put all the ingredients there, and then mix it up, and then kind of combine it together. If you can, you don't have to do everything in a separate bowl. So, in this recipe, there's chili garlic sauce, and this is one of my favorite seasonings to use. It's pretty multi-functioning. You can use it for Mexican or for Asian, and it's just basically red chilies. Put a little bit of vinegar in there, mixed up, and it makes a great Asian sauce. Now, for this, it is not hot. I mean, it's got a little heat, of course, just the chili pepper, but it's not one of those hot. I'm going to burn my mouth with it. Huh? Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to mix all this together. A tablespoon of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. The one thing with a lot of recipes, unless you do just meat, salt, pepper, your herbs, most of them are going to have some form of jarred sauce. So like this one, we have soy sauce. Oh, here, there you go. No, that's fine. We have soy sauce, we have rice vinegar, but all these ingredients, we're using very minimal of them, and they're not processed ingredients, which is good. So what do you want me to do? The sesame oil? Sesame oil is made out of sesame seeds, and this is one of those oils that's very potent, so you don't need a lot of it, which is great. So for cardiovascular health, weight loss, you can use this, and it gives your Asian food a nice baz without all the extra calories. And then rice vinegar, if you didn't have rice vinegar, you could use apple cider vinegar, champagne vinegar. Do not use white vinegar, though. Otherwise, it'll just be a pretty, kind of creamy. For the honey, there's actually a lot of local honey growers around. You can find at Super Saver and Hy-Vee the bear honey. If you see these little bears, that's honey that's grown in Nebraska. You don't grow honey, do you? Harvest honey? How do you do it? Harvest? Do you harvest honey? Hey, Katie, where do you get your chili sauce?
Yeah.
This is Lee Kung Hee. Yes, it's in the Asian section. Okay. And you'll find there's going to be, we call it rooster sauce, but it's like this long, tall bottle that has this rooster on it. It's going to be right next to that. And that rooster sauce is actually this, pureed up even more. And I forgot to tell you, can you double that?
Hy-Vee.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Can you double it? We've got double the meat. You can find it at any of the Asian sections in your grocery store. Or if you wanted to, you could actually go to, how many of you guys have ever been to an Oriental market? Oh, you've got to go sometime. Talk about local. I mean, obviously they bring it in, but you're talking the authentic, kind of more Asian stuff. And they have it, and it's a lot cheaper. This is going to run you about $2.50. It stays in the refrigerator for quite some time. At the Asian market, you can find it for $1.50. Stays in the cellar. So the honey, I always like to buy the local. Obviously, this is what we have in the cupboard at work. But I like to buy the local honey. And even if you can, from some of the farmers, you can find the stuff that's crystallized a little bit because it hasn't been processed, and that stuff is really good for cooking as well. That's always happy to use that. One spice that we're going to put in here is ginger root. Ginger, creates a little bit of a spice or a heat to it. One thing with ginger is it's going to come in this big old stalk, and you're going to find it next to the garlic the majority of the time, or maybe your jalapeno peppers. Just break off a little piece of it. You don't need a large amount. And it is a root, so it's going to be very stringy. And so we cut it up. We're going to want to make sure that we cut it up into small little chunks, and I'm going to peel the outside. We don't want to have all that barkiness on the outside. And I'm using little knives usually. What you back there doing? Water. Oh, water, okay. It's like I'm a little bit nervous. You guys are taking the food and running. I'm one of those people that I just dump a lot of things, so I don't even take much of it. I'm going to go ahead and put the ginger in there. It says if you read your recipe a little bit closer that we're going to put it in towards the end. If you wanted to, instead of the ginger root, you could just do dry ginger, or like the powdered ginger. It saves you some money and it saves you some time as well. This ginger, it cost me 8 cents, so it's really cheap. It's not like it's going to cost you anything, but it does take time to cut it up and everything. And
How long does ginger last for?
if you freeze it, it'll last for quite a while. Otherwise, in the refrigerator, it'll get moldy when it gets to be bad. Like the end of it would get moldy. You can cut that off and continue to use it. Or most recipes are going to call for like a 1-inch chunk, maybe 2 inches. And so majority of times, we might not have quite enough this butter.
If I get enough, okay.
Scoop it out with? That's all you got. I got a spatula.
Not like an old plastic, but there's plastic rings behind you.
Oh, this one?
Maybe a knife.
This is too big.
Yeah, probably. How's our meat coming? I just don't want us to burn. Good. And I don't want to throw out meat either. However you want. Okay, and we'll do a little bit of honey and vinegar and the garlic sauce. Okay.
Yeah, I would have
Also a little pinch of pepper in there. Did you double this? One thing with salt, whether it be, there's a lot of debate about kosher salt, sea salt, natural sea salt, regular table salt. When it comes down to it, it's pretty much all the same. Is what makes the difference is the crystal size. So like the sea salt, the kosher salt, is going to have a larger crystal, and so then it's going to have less sodium per teaspoon. But also, sea salt and kosher salt seem to have a little bit stronger flavor, and so you need less of it. So it's not necessarily lower in sodium per weight, but per volume, and then like I said, some just a little bit more potent. So you don't. Probably estimate that. I didn't see that. Oh, did you? Okay, perfect. I just like to squeeze it up a bit. So while she's finishing up that, I'm going to go to
I'm afraid to do that here.
Well, this is the thing about having her help. If you guys don't like it, it's her fault. It's not my fault.
Okay.
One of the hardest parts about eating naturally is choosing grains and getting in carbohydrates. We live in a world where we don't make our own bread, and very few of us will go to an actual bread store and get it. One of the main reasons is it doesn't last very long, or if you're like me, you love bread so much, and that bread is really good, and so then you eat way too much of it. Whereas if I have the low-calorie whole wheat Sara Lee at home, that's just mediocre, and so I won't eat it. But you go to the grain bin, come home with the bread, and it lasts 2 days. So rather than bread, I like to find bread and pasta. I like to find other alternatives to use, and I brought a couple different ones, and we can talk about them a little bit more after if you want to. But 2 of my favorite grains is quinoa and wheat berries. The one thing with quinoa is it's technically not a grain. It's a seed. It's a cousin of rhubarb, but it has the carbohydrates and quality of a grain, and so that's why they lump it in there with it. With quinoa, one thing that you're going to want to make sure that you do is you buy either pre-rinsed quinoa or rinse it before you cook it. And the reason is there's a natural insecticide or insectant repellent on it called saponins, and those can create a soapy, bitter taste with it. And so just rinse it off a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll usually put it in my pot. I'll rinse it, and then I'll just kind of tip off because it does have all of your essential amino acids. And so meat, protein products have all your amino acids. Otherwise, there's no grain that does. So quinoa and soy are the only two non-animal products that have all of your amino acids. This is also great for cyclists, runners, people that are exercising, because it's a slower absorbing carbohydrate, so you don't find that you have those huge insulin swings and then don't get that surge of energy and then that letdown. If you're looking for weight loss too, this is going to keep you a lot fuller, longer because of the slower absorption rate, and that's due to the fiber and protein with it. The wheat berries, this is basically a wheat kernel. There's no processing done to it whatsoever, so you still have the bran that's on the outside and then the germ that's in the middle. These take almost an hour to cook on the stove top. The way that I use these is an additive, kind of like you would barley. So if you were to make a soup, I might put these in there, or if I was to have a salad, I would sprinkle them on top. My oatmeal, I love a little bit of that chewiness to my oatmeal. I don't have time, a lot of times, to make like a steel cut oatmeal, so I will make an instant oatmeal and then put some of those, thank you, put some of those wheat berries in there, and then it gives it that chewiness that I like, and I'll put some berries in it or whatever. There's either the white or the red wheat berries. Same with the quinoa. There's red, black, and white, and there is no nutritional difference between them. It's just kind of more of a look than anything. The soft wheat, you're going to find it's going to be a little bit bigger. And there's also something called kamut berries. Have any of you guys had those? K-A-M-U-T. You cannot find them in a lot of places. One place that I like to get mine is at Open Harvest, and they have bulk bins of them. And these berries, they are a wheat berry, but they have zinc levels about twice that of any other grain, and their protein content is about double as well. You're going to find they're about this long when you cook them up, almost a third of an inch, and they take about an hour and a half to cook up. I have one gentleman that he runs marathons, and I work a lot with him, and he does a mixture of the quinoa and the kamut together, and he says, you know, ever since I started doing that, I've really been able to perform at my optimal level just because it keeps me full. I don't need as much, and then also all that fiber and the protein with it. Those you can find online too, but otherwise they don't have them at Hy-Vee or any other places. You can sometimes find flours of them. Once we get our Whole Foods here, they'll have them as well. So if you're ever at Whole Foods in Omaha, you'll find them. So with this, we're just throwing in the sauce, and if we were on the ball and going a little bit quicker, this should be done by now. We would have ground up or browned up our chicken, and while we were browning up the chicken, we would have made our sauce. We're going to just let this set for a little bit so we're ready to combine all this. I was paying attention when I was cooking this morning and didn't get some of my chicken chunked up. Okay. So with these, how many of you guys use quinoa? Right? My favorite is in Mexican dishes. So instead of rice, I'll use the quinoa, or I'll make a stuffed pepper. I'll take green pepper, red pepper, whatever it may be, and then some quinoa, a little bit of salt, or you could just use even tomatoes, like canned tomato or stewed tomato or fresh tomatoes when they come back in season, a little bit of cumin, chili powder, dump it into your pepper stuff. Or I'll make kind of a risotto out of it. You could do one of two things. You could either cook it with rice, cook it with water like you would rice, and doing a 2 parts water to 1 part quinoa. Otherwise, you could use 100% fruit juice. I like to use an apple juice, or sometimes I'll use a pomegranate juice just to give it a little bit of flavor. Pomegranate juice, of course, is going to turn the quinoa a little bit red. Or if I'm making it for like an Asian or a Mexican dish, I would put maybe a little bit of vegetable broth or something with it, or just some different herbs and spices, seasonings in with my water, so just a little bit more flavor. So what we're going to be doing is, this is something that you can take for breakfast, lunch, afternoon snack. A lot of kids really like it, and I've already cooked up quinoa, and so I will cook up quinoa on the weekend, some wheat berries or kamut, quinoa, and then keep it in my refrigerator all week, and just kind of add it as need be, so then I have that grain component. With this, we're going to take some berries. We're going to take kiwis, which out of all of the fruits, believe it or not, kiwis are one of the best for you, and I think we overlook them the majority of the time. 2 kiwis have, and you can take off the fuzz, 2 kiwis have more fiber than a bowl of oatmeal. They have more potassium than a banana and more vitamin C than an orange. And so 2 little kiwis or 1 large New Zealand kiwi is going to be equivalent to all those. Kiwis a lot of times are very hard and tart, so just leave them on the counter to ripen. Do not put them in the refrigerator unless you are satisfied with their doneness, because once they get in the refrigerator, they won't ripen anymore. Blueberries, blackberries, also any berry is going to be very high in antioxidants, and it's going to help actually the absorption of the iron and folate and zinc that's in our quinoa. So those berries, the more surface area you have on a fruit, you're going to get more antioxidants. Just think that the more surface area, the more potential. So things like an apple and orange can have a lot of surface area with that, and so you're not going to get as many nutrients as if you're starting with blackberries, blueberries, and things like that. I already cut these up ahead of time, washed them and cut them up, and then we're just going to mix this too. Together, you could do one of 2 things. You could either stop here and leave it as is, or if you wanted to, you could put a little bit of dressing on it. One of my favorites that I like to do is I'll just take a bag of frozen fruit, or just even fresh strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, put them in a blender, blend them up with either a little bit of orange juice, a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of mustard, like the powdered mustard. Mix that up, and that makes a great dressing. You don't have to use any sweetener or anything with it. If you wanted to put a little bit of honey, you could, but you don't have to. Otherwise, there's 2 raspberry vinaigrettes that I really like. One is the Panera one. It has very minimal ingredients, and it's basically the same thing. It's water, raspberries, honey, vinegar, sugar, lemon juice, a little bit of salt. And then there's the Marzarettis, T. Marzetti. They have a natural line that I really like. There's no artificial sweeteners. There's no artificial fat flavorings in there, and I really like those as well. That's one thing with the dressings is when you start to get into the low-calorie dressings, you're finding that you're going to have a lot of artificial products. They're going to taste rubbery, plasticky, and all of those products are things that were once created for animals, and then they were no longer seen fit. And so then they thought, well, we can feed it to humans instead. Like margarine, for example. Margarine was originally designed to fatten up turkeys, and then all the turkeys were dying, and so they thought, well, that's not going to work. But they used it for human consumption instead. Look it up on the internet. You'll find all sorts of studies about it. It was like back in the 1960s that they did it, so it wasn't even too long ago with that. This we're going to mix it up, and then I'll let you guys decide if you want to put a little bit of vinaigrette on it or not. But like I said, with those salad dressings, finding those that are natural. They don't have to say natural on them. A lot of your oil and vinaigrettes are going to be fine. Anything that's a low fat, low sugar, low carb cream dressing is going to have lots and lots of safe additives, chemicals in it, because there's no way that you can have anything that's low fat, low calorie, and natural at the same time.
What can you, so the dressings like in the health market section that got heavy that are gluten-free, sugar-free, I can't think of the brand right now.
Walden Farms?
Them all the time. Yeah.
Walden Farms?
Are those okay?
Oh.
Haven't no?
Well, I did my master's degree at Northern Illinois. What?
I said you shuddered.
Well, we had a bottle of the fake stuff, and I mean, if you would see how it's basically plastic. I mean, it's the same components that are in plastic, and you think, okay, if I'm eating something and there's no calories, no carbs, no sugar, no fat, no nothing, I mean, that's not a food product then, because all foods have to have either sugar, which is carbohydrates, fat, or protein, or alcohol. Those are the only 4 ways that we can get nutrition. And then our vitamins and minerals obviously aren't going to have calories. But I just think, am I going to really be saving anything by eating fake products? I think they taste terrible too. I don't know who would want to eat them. Is it the Walden Farms?
Walden Farms is one, and then there's another one that has like syrups and all of that.
It's healthy because it's low fat, low sugar. And the thing is gluten-free. I mean, this is a gluten-free product right here, but there's nothing on it that says gluten-free. And it has 0 grams of fat. It's naturally fat-free because there's no oil in it. So, I mean, you can find a lot of things that are extremely extremely healthy. And for example, sugars, this only has 4 grams of sugars, whereas if you were to combine or to compare it to some of the other vinaigrettes, are going to have 12, 15 grams of sugar. So if you look, you can usually find some pretty good products that don't have fake stuff, but also aren't high calorie, high sugar, high fat, or whatever. I shuddered because I just think those things are terrible in terms of taste. But health-wise, they're also not that great either. What was this? What? Are you misbehaving over there? All right, so we'll get this all mixed up, and then you guys can put the dressing on it if you want to. One thing that I wanted to show is different ways to get beans in. Beans are one of those things that if you buy them in the can, it's pretty much the same as if you were to cook them yourself. That's one product that I say, if you're going to do cans, go for the beans. They do now make varieties that are like the reduced sodium option. Otherwise, if you drain off the liquid, if you rinse your beans, you're going to be getting rid of about 75–80% of that sodium. Not a whole lot will soak into it. And the one reason why they have to use salt in canned products is to prevent botulism. If you put something in there and then all of a sudden there's just one tiny little microorganism, which can happen because it's a food product, it came from a farm of some sort, then it can grow bacteria and can be pretty deadly if we interfere with that. So beans are a great way if you wanted to cook your own beans, you can. Otherwise, just buy the canned variety. Putting them in your Mexican dish, you could even put beans if you wanted to in this dish. Or one of my favorite things to do is to make a hummus. A lot of people are scared to make their own hummus, or they think, oh my gosh, it's going to take too much work. It's actually very easy, and you're going to save yourself tons of money. How many of you guys like hummus? Okay. Well, I gave you one basic hummus recipe and then ways that you could modify it. So this is just the basic variety. My favorite is the roasted red pepper. So I'll put a little bit of red pepper in there, or even the olive dish. Or the olive one. I like that as well. There's 3 basic components to a hummus. You have your garbanzo beans or chickpeas, tahini, and oil, olive oil. Those are your 3 components, and then it all depends on what recipe you look at is the proportion or the ratio of those ingredients, and then also whatever else they put with it. So for this recipe, what I basically do is you take a food processor, and if you don't have a food processor, you could use a blender, but you're going to have to do it a little bit more in batches, and you might find that the blades get stuck up a little bit. That's one of my favorite kitchen utensils in the food processor. I have a really nice one that costs about $200. At work, we have one that costs $37. The $37 one is just fine. It doesn't work quite as well as the nicer one, and getting things really, like if I would make this at home, you'll notice that there's still a little bit of bean grit in it. At home, mine makes it very smooth. But if you don't use it very often, $37 is going to serve you a lot of good. Tons of recipes. So with this, I took the beans, blended them up, put a little bit of cumin in there, a little bit of chili powder, salt, pepper, blended that up, and then the trick is to slowly drizzle in your other ingredients. So keep your food processor on, and then I put a little bit of the water and lemon juice, mix it in there, and then put in the tahini. Tahini is all it is blended or pureed sesame seeds. So there's no other ingredients, it's just sesame seeds. If you wanted to make your own, you could. You basically take those sesame seeds and grind them until they become a paste, which is just way too much work. This costs you about $8, which is pretty expensive. However, this would make, let's see if I can do my math right. This would make 8 batches of hummus. So if you think, I mean, this is going to be $1 a batch, and then you have $1 of your garbanzo beans with that. I mean, that's a heck of a lot cheaper than your $3 or $4 other stuff. This is going to last you about a week to 10 days in the refrigerator. If you notice on here, I did put, 3 to 5 days maybe. Or did I say 7? Okay, good. It lasts 7 to 10 days. So, and then a couple things, you can put any of your vegetables with it. I gave you guys a sheet about the farmer's market. The bad side, or the downside to living in Nebraska is we don't have farmer's markets all year round. Some of the first ones start in May, and they usually go through October. So I've given you the farmer's markets that are in our area, so Lincoln and Omaha. And you notice I put the 2012 hours down. I'm assuming that they'll probably be pretty close this year as well. But just make note of that they may change the full box or a half of a box?
It's a whole box, and now we're doing Robinette Farm.
And you're doing what?
Now we're doing Robinette Farm.
Oh, I don't know a whole lot about the Robinette Farm.
They're great, because you're doing, every other week for them. They call it it's like a mini share box, but it's every other week, and then you sell novelty places for the farmer's market.
Perfect. They're on this sheet. I just don't know a lot. I haven't ever used them before, so. And there's some of these places that they'll actually be at like a farmer's market, or they'll be someplace that you can pick it up, or they'll even deliver it to your house if you want. And that's something, if you're really interested, call up some of these places and ask them what they offer. One of my clients, they actually own Shadowbrook Farms, and they are open all year round. So they actually have lettuce right now. If you want to, you can call them and you can go out to their store, which is in Denton, and you can pick up the lettuce. And they still do have some vegetables available, but not a lot. They are an organic produce farmer, and they're known for their lettuce. You'll find them in the farmer's market all the time, but they have so much more than just the lettuce. Let's see here. What can I say? Oh, yeah. The other item that I made was, how many of you guys have had Larabars before? Anybody have Larabars? Do you like them? Well, this is a homemade Larabar, which is going to cost you about a third of what they do in the store. And the great thing about this is most natural foods, or most of this clean eating diet that we talk about, you cannot have sugar. Well, almost all desserts are going to have sugar in it. And even if you're consuming your agave nectar or your honey, too much of that can really raise your blood sugar, and then it can promote fat storage. Whereas with these bars, all it is dates and almonds mixed together. And dates, you can find them at Super Saver, for example, in their bulk bins. And they're just these dried dates. There's no sugar with them. Dates do not have to be sugared because they're just naturally very sweet. And then they dry them. And so I think they look like little cockroaches. If you like drop them on the ground, and they do. But again, it's so appetizing, is that what you said? Well, if you look in here, you'll see the shells of cockroaches too. So with these, again, you're going to want to put them in your food processor. And this is about how many dates you'd want. So I just take a handful of dates, put them in your food processor, blend them up, and you'll want to blend it until it forms a ball. So it'll make a lot of noise, rumbling and stuff, and then all of a sudden you'll find it sticks together and creates a ball, and it goes around. That's when you know it's done. You take it out, and then you throw in your almonds, walnuts, pecans, pistachios, whatever nut you want in there, and do about the same amount as well. And then you'll blend them up in your food processor, and then I take them out, and then you can either do one or two things. Let the food processor mix them up, or take them out and mix them in a bowl. One thing with the nuts is if you get too many, which I did with this extra large batch that I did, the nuts just won't stick in with the batter. And so then you can save these for the next time when you do your next shift with it. And both of these, I mean, you can leave the dates in a bag for a good month, 2 months, 3 months if you want to do anything with these. So you can make them as you need. These are a great dessert, but then they're also a really good traveling snack. So if you're exercising, if you're going to be running a marathon, doing a cycling event, these are great portable that you can take with you. One of these bars, for the nutrition information, listen, and if any of you guys have had Larabars, you realize they're a pretty little volume of food for the calories that you get. One of these bars is about 2/3, probably half to 2/3 of what this bar size would be in this calorie here. So you're not getting a full bar when you pick it up. There's some of them that are a little bit bigger, so those would be about 2/3, and then some that are smaller, which would be about a half of it. All right, so any questions so far? If not, we'll dish up our food, and then we'll talk a little bit more. Yeah? Uh-huh. You know, that's a good question. It does not make sense where they put it. It absolutely makes no sense. In Super Saver, where I do most of my shopping, it's going to be by your rices. Which, why in the rice? Why not with the Asian? Why not with the kosher products? Who knows? But it's next to like the instant bags of rice and stuff like that. At Hy-Vee, you find it in the health food section.
And then if you bought that big jar and you put it back, would that keep the refrigerator very long?
Yes. I had mine one time for over a year. It says May 22nd of 2014. And it doesn't go that's just the oil from the sesame seeds. I usually like to store mine upside down in the refrigerator. One time though I did that and I didn't quite get it tight enough, and it leaked all over. But this way then it seems like the oil sits on top and it's much easier to stir. Where if the oil's on the top here, it seems like it just has a hard time. I mean, if you shake it long enough, it'll make itself, but this is needs it to be a pretty thick consistency. With the peanut butters, we use the natural peanut butter. Did you throw that container away? That's all right. Well, you can throw it away. I just didn't want it to the trash can if it wasn't there. With the natural peanut butters, I have to laugh because there's so many natural peanut butters on the shelf, and you turn it over and you think, what's natural about this? And my favorite peanut butter is actually Super Saver creates and blends up their own, and it's all it is peanuts. You can find peanuts that have salt in them, peanuts and honey, or just peanuts, or just cashews, or just almonds. This little container, if you buy the organic variety, which that's what this is $5, so it's kind of expensive. But if you buy the non-organic, then it's going to run you about $2.50 for the small one, or $4 for one that's about double this size. My other favorite brand is Justin's. Justin's, this is going to run you about $6, so it's actually even more expensive than the Super Saver stuff. And this is my second favorite for all natural peanut butter. Otherwise, there is the Smucker's all natural as well. Smucker's is the only regular brand peanut butter, brand, I guess that you can find on the shelf, that's truly a natural peanut butter. So when you pull up the Skippy Natural, sorry, not natural. Or, I mean, it is considered natural, but in my book, when you have more ingredients on the natural peanut butter than you do on the regular peanut butter, I think you've got something.
How can they, in a way, explain that? How can they call it natural and it has all that additives?
Well, because it is a natural product. I mean, palm kernel oil, salt, sugar, those are all natural items. And so there's no artificial flavorings, no artificial preservatives in it. But in my book, a natural peanut butter should be peanuts and salt. Maybe a little bit of oil so that it's creamy. And that's what you'll find with this natural peanut butter here, is it can kind of get dried out a little bit just because there's not all this extra oil added to it. The Justin's does have oil that they add to it. This one has organic palm fruit oil that they put into it. But these are my favorite. And then, like I said, the Smucker's peanut butter is my favorite one that you find in the most conventional shop or whatever. So we'll have you guys, if you want to go through kind of like a buffet line to get some food. I was going to dish it up for you guys, but I think that we'll let you guys do it since there's no room in there. If you want a little bit of dressing on the quinoa, you can, or otherwise you can just do it plain. And sometimes what I'll do is rather than doing a dressing, I would put like some cinnamon or allspice, poppy seeds in there with it. And then, actually, you guys may want to use the bigger plate, or you can use the small plate. You can use these or these. And then we'll put the chicken here at the end of it. And I did bring some lettuce leaves if you want to use those. Otherwise, like my husband says, oh, Katie, he says, you can never make a good lettuce wrap. You just have to put it on top of shredded lettuce. I like to use the lettuce wraps instead of using like a tortilla dough, or I'll just put it on top of shredded lettuce. And for us, I did the leaf lettuce. I like to buy the organic lettuce. Lettuce is pretty disgusting of how dirty it is and what they all put on it. So I just buy the organic leaf lettuce. And then I have my kitchen pillowcase. And no, I do not grab this off of my pillow. But I like the liner because it has the zipper. So I'll take my lettuce, I'll put it in a sink full of water and wash it, and then I'll shake it out and I'll put it in my pillowcase. And this is basically just like a salad spinner, but you can put more in it. So I'll put my lettuce in, do this, and take it outside, get your aggression out, whip it around, bring it back in, and then just actually put the pillowcase and everything in the refrigerator. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of airflow that goes through the pillowcase, but then there's still moisture to keep the lettuce nice and crisp. You will find that your lettuce is going to last at least 2-3 days longer by putting it in the pillowcase. Otherwise, put it in a Ziploc bag, put a wet or a damp paper towel in there, seal it up, and then make sure there's just a little bit of opening in your Ziploc bag, and then that way